Welcome back. In the previous episodes, I explained how Second Army was formed and how it reached the River Don. It's time to continue this mini-series with the next chapter, focusing on the Soviet bridgeheads and Axis attempts to eliminate them in the summer and fall of 1942. Units of Second Army arrived at the Don in early July. The 1st Field Armored Division followed them 2 weeks later. In the meantime, Faublau continued. German 6th Army advanced towards Stalingrad, while 4th Panzer Army and 17th Army turned southeast to reach the Caucasus and its important oil fields. German 2nd Army tried to take Voronezh but failed. Then, just like their Hungarian neighbor to the south, it took defensive positions along the river. The Hungarians initially crossed the Don and established a temporary bridgehead, but Soviet forces soon returned and counterattacked, establishing 3 bridgeheads on the Hungarian side. These presented a threat to the army and the German offensive. The largest of these bridgeheads was located at Uriv, in the northern sector of the army, where 3rd and 4th Corps met. The first major attack commenced on the 18th of July, with 7th Light Division and 1st Field Armored Division. Due to a lack of training and experience, cooperation between armor and infantry was minimal. Most soldiers believed that the tanks will do the job, they just have to follow them. Because of this, they suffered significant losses, and while the armor reached the river and destroyed 21 tanks, mostly Stuarts and 1 T-34, remaining Soviet units were not mopped up by the infantry, so they could be reinforced at night, and part of the lost territory was recovered. Captain Kostka participated in this attack. In an interview after the war, he explained that they entered the town of Uriv and fought for each house in order to push the defenders out. They were hit by tanks 6 times that day. The artillery could not provide any support as its ammunition lagged behind. Their 37mm anti-tank guns were ineffective against the T-34s, although the tanks also stayed away from the guns instead of crushing them. During the battle, he saw that one tank ran over a soldier and turned to make sure he was crushed. Instead of dying, the soldier simply got up and continued running. He was saved by the sand, which kept his body between the tracks. He was not hurt at all. On the 5th of August, 2 Soviet regiments crossed the Don at Korotoyak and pushed back units of the 10th Light Division. This bridgehead was threatening the supply center at Ostrogosk, so its elimination was of primary importance. 1st Field Armored Division was sent there, along with the newly arrived 12th Light Division, which had to march 1,000 kilometers to reach the front. They were ordered to attack without resting. Their commander refused, so he was replaced and the attack commenced anyway. After suffering a 30% loss, Korotoyak itself was recovered, but the bridgehead remained. 38 Panzer 38Ts and 2 Panzer IVs were lost. The armor soon had to be sent back to Uriv, where another Soviet attack had started. 7th and 10th Light Divisions, along with the armor, were ordered to attack enemy positions there. The Soviets quietly abandoned their first line, so the Hungarian infantry reached the area earlier than expected, and their own artillery barrage hit them. Strong anti-tank fire forced the tanks to retreat, although they prevented a successful Soviet counterattack, which could have destroyed the infantry. In the first few hours, 1,400 men were lost. Soviet losses were also heavy, but lines were unchanged. Back at Korotoyak, a 3rd regiment and a tank brigade crossed as well. Their advance threatened to cut 2nd Army into 2. 1st Field Armored Division was sent back immediately. It was ordered to counterattack again, along with 10th and 13th Light Divisions. A German infantry regiment also arrived, but fighting continued until the 3rd of September. Each street, each house had to be individually taken. The bridgehead was finally cleared. Remaining Soviet troops retreated through the Don, so only 2 bridgeheads remained, and the troops could now be refitted and rested. Plans were drawn up for a 3rd attack at Uriv, while damaged tanks were being repaired. The armored division reduced its losses to fewer than 30 tanks, but a lack of tools and replacements resulted in significant delays. The Third Battle of Uriv involved 7th, 13th, and 20th Light Divisions, 1st Field Armored Division, German 168th Infantry Division, and a few German assault guns. Led by General von Langermann, the attack commenced on the 9th of September, with some initial gains against the heavily reinforced defensive positions that also relied on minefields. Half of the bridgehead was soon taken, but losses were heavy. 13th Light Division lost all its company commanders on the first day. 2 Soviet tank brigades crossed the river. Their KV-1 heavy tanks destroyed 24 Hungarian panzers, while only 2 of them were knocked out. The attack had to be called off. Losses reached 10,000 men, but a Soviet counterattack soon pushed all units back behind their starting lines. By the 16th of September, it was obvious that the Uriv bridgehead could not be cleared. The armored division had only 12 Panzer 38s and 2 Panzer IVs left. They were shaken by the encounter with heavier Soviet tanks. Thanks to the repairs, by October, these numbers grew to 59 and 14, but they also received 10 Panzer III's and 10 Panzer IV F2s, which had long 75mm guns and were more effective against T-34s. The Tank Hunter Company lost several Nimrods. They received 5 Marder IIs with similar long 75mm guns. Overall, during these battles to eliminate the bridgeheads, Hungarian Second Army lost 866 officers and 19,540 men. On the 20th of August, while flying a Heya fighter in a mission to the Sztucia bridgehead, István Horthy, eldest son of the region, crashed and died. His death lowered morale. Many saw it as a sign regarding the fate of the entire army. By late September, many light divisions were severely weakened. The promised replacements had not arrived, and since all resources were poured into the attack on Stalingrad, the supply situation was worsening. If we take the entire period, from April to early October, Second Army lost 1,100 officers and 29,000 men. A defensive line now had to be built along the river and the 2 remaining bridgeheads at Uriv and Sztucia. With around 80,000 soldiers, a line of 200 kilometers had to be guarded, which was next to impossible as there were no reserves, not enough equipment, and no medium or heavy anti-tank guns that could fight effectively against Soviet medium and heavy tanks. Lieutenant General Gustav Jani, commander of Second Army, signaled that his troops could only watch the river but not defend it against a serious Soviet attack. He made several proposals to shorten the line and to reorganize the troops, creating larger reserves that could counterattack in case of a Soviet breakthrough, but these were denied by his German superiors, who emphasized that only Hitler himself could approve such changes. No serious reinforcements could be expected. Everything depended on the outcome of the battle at Stalingrad. North of the Hungarian units, German Second Army guarded the river at Voronezh with its 3 infantry divisions and 2 smaller groups, while to the south, Italian 8th Army was struggling with the Soviet bridgeheads in its own area, with 5 Italian and several German divisions. In the Hungarian sector, attempts were made to form some sort of a reserve, with 1st Field Armored Division, German 168th Infantry Division, and 700th Panzer Group, which also had outdated Panzer 38s. In the coming months, some replacements arrived, but I will talk about this period in the next episode, detailing the supply situation, morale, efforts at reorganization, and attempts to improve the army's defensive lines. It will be followed by another video regarding the Soviet counteroffensive and eventual breakthrough, and maybe a third part about the retreat and collapse of the front. Thank you for watching. See you next time.